not as much as my therapist. What are you wearing?
What are you having?
What's happening?
What'll it be?
What are you talking about?
What a day, am I right?
Are you supposed to be a bartender?
Are you trying to be a customer?
Am I supposed to know what's going on right now?
Do you think you could be more specific?
Do you want to get nuts?
Why don't you put that down?
Why don't you make me?
Can we take a step back?
Is there enough space for that?
Are you being literal?
Is this a metaphor?
I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Statement! 1 point to me. This joke's entirely for myself and for the one person who's seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. And if that's not you, why not? Tim Roth, Gary Oldman, Richard Dreyfuss, written and directed by Tom Stoppard of Shakespeare in Love fame?
You also wrote Brazil with Terry Gilliam.
I didn't know that.
Captain?
Taverns of Tiefenthal is a dice-based deck-building and drafting game released in 2019 and designed by Wolfgang Warsch with art by Dennis Lohausen. The goal is to have the most profitable tavern in the village of Tiefenthal by buying the best upgrades and attracting the most well-respected patrons. To set up, place the monastery board in the middle of the table. Place the round marker and 3 counter guests per player next to the board. Sort the tavern cards by type and place them face up next to the board. Place the 3 beer cost guests and the noble cards face up in separate piles, then shuffle the remaining guest cards and reveal 4 of them in a row. Each player takes a tavern board and a set of 10 equipment tiles, placing the tiles cost side up in the appropriate spaces of the tavern. The players each place a yellow and brown marker on the 0 spaces of the safe and beer storage tiles respectively. Each player chooses an available color and places the corresponding marker at 0 on the monastery board. Their colored dice are placed in the general supply. The players take their starting deck of 7 regular customers as well as 1 waitress, table, and beer card, shuffle these all together, and place the deck face down next to their tavern. Give each player a dice coaster and a set of 4 white dice. The player who was most recently in a tavern is the starting player and takes the beer mug token. In Taverns of Tiefenthal, players are the hosts of their own taverns, trying to be the very best, like no one ever was. Gotta catch all the patrons. The game is played over 8 rounds, which are broken down into 7 phases each. During a new evening in town, the start player moves the round marker to the current round number, with all players receiving the printed bonus there. Next, in the tavern fills up, all players will reveal cards from their deck and place them in the tavern with guests at tables and tavern cards, such as a waitress or a table, next to their zones. Guests only sit 1 to a table, and when all available tables are occupied, the phase ends. This phase and the following phase of Here Comes the Waitress, wherein you draw 1 die of your player color for each waitress in your tavern, are performed simultaneously by all players. The following phase, How Can I Serve You, has everyone rolling all the dice in front of them and placing the 4 white dice on the coaster. Then, in player order, each player picks 1 of the dice, passing the remaining dice clockwise. This continues until all the dice have been drafted. The next 2 phases, Planning Your Actions and Time to Serve the Guests, are the core of the gameplay, where dice are assigned to locations in your tavern, and then the corresponding actions are carried out. This will mostly involve collecting gold and beer, which can be used to upgrade the tavern and attract more guests, respectively. Finally, it's closing time, and all purchased cards and cards in the tavern are moved to the player's discard piles. If a player needs to draw a card and their deck is empty, their discard pile is shuffled to make a new deck. At the end of the 8th round, the game ends, and each player counts up the point values from all the cards in their deck and discard pile. The player with the most points wins. Ties are broken by the most stored gold and beer. In comedy, there is the rule of 3s. It usually means you set up a joke, you pay off the joke, you call back to the joke, and then you drop it forever. Humor is, of course, as in all art, subjective. Some people crack up at the Three Stooges, while others can't stand the cartoonish, but often real-looking, violence. I, myself, will never understand the appeal of any of Rob Schneider's, let's say movies. In addition, there can be exceptions to rules, even the initially stated one. Why be bound to any manner of dictates in art when creation can be just for creation's sake? Art in the name of art despite the costs incurred. Should we kneel in submission to what came before or stand in defiance for what could be? Push the limits. Break the boundaries. Hack the Gibson. Save the Empire. My ultimate goal in this was, in reality, to bring back my "I've always been more of a rum person" line for a 4th time. This game is about a tavern where beer is a form of currency. How can you expect me not to do the bit? Then again, I've never claimed to be a comedian. I just talk too much, and sometimes, if I'm lucky, it makes people laugh. If you ever want to hear me wax loquacious about some manner of tabletop distraction, I'm always game.
Pretty cunning, eh?